Every short video you scroll through, every message you send, every payment you transfer, if it goes through the internet, there's a 95% chance it travels through a place you've never given a second thought. "8,000 meters below the ocean's surface. But down there, in that dark and silent deep, a war is unfolding that will determine who controls the digital world of tomorrow. More than 500 undersea cables snake across the ocean floor like veins, carrying trillions of dollars worth of data every single day. In February 2025, Meta dropped over $10 billion to build a 50,000-kilometer undersea cable, longer than the Earth's equator. That same July, the Federal Communications Commission moved to ban all Chinese technology from these systems entirely. What's really at stake here? As AI drives data demand up eightfold, whoever controls these invisible digital arteries gets to write the rules for the future world. Back in 2008, when Huawei Marine Networks was founded, the global undersea cable market was already locked down. American company Subcom, France's ASN, and Japan's NEC controlled 85% of the market between them. Building undersea cables requires cutting-edge technology, deep-sea operations, advanced optical transmission systems, and only a handful of countries in the world could pull it off. For China, a latecomer to the game, getting a piece of the pie seemed nearly impossible. But just 10 years later, everything changed. In 2022, an undersea cable called Peace officially went live, 15,500 kilometers long, connecting nearly 12 countries across Asia, Africa, and Europe. With a price tag of $420, it was one of Huawei Marine's flagship projects, and a clear signal that China had gone from playing catch-up to becoming a serious challenger. By 2020, Huawei Marine had been involved in building or upgrading 105 undersea cables worldwide. From 0 to 105, that number tells the story of China's stunning breakthrough in deep-sea technology. The driving force was clear. The Belt and Road Initiative needed a digital Silk Road. China threw its weight behind cable-building companies, developing a complete supply chain from ships to equipment to data processing technology. For developing countries looking to upgrade their internet infrastructure on a tight budget, Chinese companies offered a better deal. Huawei Marine, with its technical expertise and competitive pricing, captured about 10% of the global market. But in 2019, just as Huawei Marine was gearing up to secure more contracts, the United States made its move. America's first blow targeted Huawei Marine itself. In 2019, the Trump administration began imposing sweeping sanctions on Huawei, citing national security concerns. The reasoning was straightforward. If a Chinese company controlled too much of the undersea cable construction and maintenance network, they could monitor or even cut off critical data flows. Huawei denied the allegations, but it was ultimately forced to sell its stake in Huawei Marine. The company was renamed HMN Tech. The name change didn't solve the problem, though. In 2020, the US government issued a clear policy. Chinese companies were banned from any undersea cable projects connecting to the United States. This wasn't just paperwork. It came with real, concrete action. The most telling case was the Pacific Light Cable Network, or PLCN. This cable was supposed to directly link Los Angeles and Hong Kong, a critical project for American companies like Google and Facebook to rapidly connect to Asian markets. But a team from the Department of Defense, Homeland Security, Justice Department, and FBI repeatedly blocked it on national security grounds. In April 2020, they shut down the Hong Kong connection entirely. Over the past 4 years, the US government has blocked at least 4 cable projects that would have connected Hong Kong to the United States. The even harsher blows came in international markets. In 2022, HMN Tech was competing for a major undersea cable project connecting Southeast Asia and Europe through the Middle East. The project was worth $600 million, a contract no cable company could afford to pass up. But the United States stepped in directly, persuading countries along the route to help American company Subcom win the bid instead. The US reasoning was explicit. This cable would connect 3 strategically critical regions, and Chinese companies couldn't be allowed to participate. In 2023, during the bidding for the East Micronesia cable system, or EMCS, Huawei Communications' bid came in more than 20% lower than competitors. But they still lost. The contract went to Japan's and the United States, working with Australia, pressured countries along the route to reject Chinese manufacturers over so-called security concerns. America's strategy wasn't a global ban, but rather precision targeting. They convinced countries and companies with close ties to U.S. interests not to use Chinese technology in strategically important regions. This carrot-and-stick approach was effective. Many project managers who had been considering Chinese companies ended up choosing Western firms instead. But Chinese companies didn't just sit back and take it. They shifted their focus to another critical area: repair ships. Every year, there are over 200 undersea cable damage incidents worldwide, with 60% caused by shipping accidents, plus unpredictable factors like natural disasters. The 2006 Taiwan earthquake damaged multiple international cables, nearly paralyzing internet service across Southeast Asia. Whoever can fix these cables holds the power. There are only about 50 specialized repair ships in the world, and China's shipbuilding industry was rapidly expanding. HMN Tech and other Chinese companies began building more repair vessels and training technical crews. In April 2025, Chinese research institutions published papers announcing they'd developed new equipment capable of cutting cables 4,000 meters below the ocean surface, the world's deepest undersea cable repair capability, nearly double the depth of most cables worldwide. U.S. strategists realized that even if they blocked Chinese companies from building new cables, much of the future repair work might still depend on Chinese ships and technology. This reality made Washington even more anxious. The standoff reached an impasse. The United States controlled the core cable networks connecting Europe, America, and Japan, while China steadily expanded its influence in Southeast Asia, South Asia, and Africa. But then, a new factor completely disrupted the balance. The AI era arrived. In 2025, Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg announced a plan: invest over $10 billion to build a 50,000-kilometer undersea cable called Waterworth. This cable would connect 5 continents, including the United States, Brazil, India, South Africa, and Australia. Longer than the Earth's equator, it would be the longest single undersea cable project in history. Why did Meta suddenly become so aggressive? The answer is AI. Zuckerberg made it clear the project was designed to unlock global AI potential. Meta planned to spend $70 billion on infrastructure alone in 2025, with a huge portion dedicated to supporting the massive data transmission needed for AI training and inference. The numbers tell the story. In 2014, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon's combined share of international cable capacity was just 10%. By 2024, that number had skyrocketed. Training a large AI model can require transmitting hundreds of petabytes of data. And that data needs to flow between data centers around the world. Satellite communication can transmit data too, but the bandwidth is too limited and latency too high to meet AI's demands. What's even more critical is that Meta's Waterworth project will use 24 fiber optic cable pairs, employing Meta's proprietary routing technology, with cables reaching depths of 7,000 meters. This cable will eventually carry over 95% of global intercontinental ocean traffic. And Meta plans to own and operate the entire cable without sharing it with other carriers. A single private company will control massive data corridors from the United States to India, from Brazil to South Africa. In other words, the Waterworth project isn't just a business venture. The United States views it as a strategic asset for geopolitics and national security. Facing this trend, Chinese companies chose a more flexible path. Since America had locked the door to Western markets, they'd go around it. In 2023, Huawei built a cloud data center in Saudi Arabia. In 2024, ByteDance announced a $2.113 billion investment in an AI hub in Malaysia. And Alibaba Cloud announced it would build proprietary data centers in Vietnam. In 2025, DeepSeek established a data center in Dammam, Saudi Arabia. The logic behind these moves was crystal clear. leverage Southeast Asia and the Middle East geographic position and relatively relaxed policy environment to build overseas computing nodes, bypassing America's technology blockade. Meanwhile, China's undersea cable construction was accelerating. While projects connecting to the United States were shut down, cable projects linking Southeast Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, and Africa kept moving forward. Projections show that between 2026 and 2030, the world will build 540,000 kilometers of new undersea cables, the global undersea cable market, valued at 14.4 billion yuan in 2025, is expected to reach 26 billion yuan by 2030, with a compound annual growth rate of 30%. That means, over the next 5 years, we'll be laying the equivalent of 13 cables around the Earth's equator on the ocean floor. But behind this technology race, a deeper question is emerging. When private tech giants and national powers start fighting for control of global digital infrastructure, who gets to make the rules? In 2025, the new regulations the Federal Communications Commission prepared to roll out marked a new phase in the US-China undersea cable war, an escalation from partial blockade to total stranglehold. Put simply, undersea cables are no longer just commercial infrastructure. The United States now views them as strategic assets for geopolitics and national security. The core elements of the new rules include banning equipment or services from companies on the FCC's national security threat list, which includes Huawei, China Telecom, China Mobile, and other Chinese firms. Chinese companies won't be able to get FCC licenses to build and operate cables connecting to the United States, and they're banned from leasing capacity on cables laid by other companies. At the same time, the FCC will streamline the permit process for American companies applying for cable licenses. What's more subtle is India's role. Meta chose India as a key landing point for the Waterworth project, not just because India represents the next billion-user market, but because the United States wants to position India as a global AI training center. This cable will provide India with powerful data transmission capabilities to support its AI industry development. But India faces difficult choices. On one hand, India has aligned with the United States, promising to choose trusted suppliers. On the other hand, India's massive market, needs, and limited budget make it hard to completely abandon China's low-cost solutions. China's undersea cable construction in Southeast Asia and South Asia continues to advance, and these countries are adopting supplier diversification strategies. Singapore is a prime example. Its technology sources include partners from Japan, the United States, China, and Europe, and by 2028, it will be connected to over 40 undersea cables. The greatest vulnerability of undersea cables is that they're both communication infrastructure and easily subject to physical damage. In theory, anyone controlling a cable can cut, disrupt, or monitor communications. After the 2022 Tonga volcanic eruption, the country's only undersea cable was severed, and the entire nation was essentially cut off from the world. This case clearly demonstrated that in the digital age, undersea cables aren't just economic lifelines, they're strategic choke points. When undersea cables become a new battleground for great power competition, a fundamental question faces everyone. In this interconnected world, does digital sovereignty belong to nations or to the handful of giants who control these digital arteries? From China's entry into this field in 2008 to America's preparation for a complete technology blockade in 2025, the competition over undersea cables has evolved from technical and commercial levels to the ultimate contest over national strategy and digital sovereignty. The core of this struggle has never been about who laid more cables, but about who can set the rules for tomorrow's digital world. The United States is trying to maintain its dominance through blockade policies, but in a globalized era, this approach is bound to face challenges. China, while being blockaded, is accelerating its presence in Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Africa, forming new digital ecosystems. As tech giants' digital empires begin redefining control over digital highways, the balance of power in the internet economy is fundamentally shifting. Over the next 5 years, the world will lay enough new cable to circle the Earth's equator 13 times. This isn't just a technology race, It's a profound contest over the future world order between America's blockade, China's breakthrough attempts, and tech giants' expansion. The war 8,000 meters below the surface has only just begun, and the answer might be hidden in those depths we'll never see. Whoever ultimately controls these digital arteries will write the rules for the second half of the 21st century.